Hello and welcome back to my garage. We're working on the 1969 VW single port engine. We have our block finished and okay, go ahead and start it. It's not starting. Okay, I harped on this over and over and over and over again. And I watched videos of Will It Runs, and they loosen the distributor up and wildly gesticulate it back and forth, expecting it's going to run. I just, I don't, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the timing. Well, you can't set the timing. You don't have the coil on it. You don't have the distributor on, or the cap on it and stuff. It's not about the cap and the rotor. The cap or the coil. The cap and the rotor fit closely, but there's an air gap between there and the post on the coil. And if it actually touched, it would make a lot of racket. Okay, so that's jumping that to go down the high tension into the spark plug. What we're dealing with is a switch, and it's the points. So that's all it is. Okay, so I have my old Micronta meter here, and I have this on, unless I can get it where you can see it. Brother Brian made this a long time ago, and what you have here is it's grounded right now. Okay, and what happens is the coil will not build until it's not grounded any longer, and this is what grounds it, is the points. It's a absolutely archaic system. It's so archaic that it actually erodes the metal in the points. It actually burns them out. It's just archaic. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get close with this, and you can see that we're on number, or we were on number 1, but I'm going to see how close we can get here because we're a little bit past it, and I'm going to come up to the white mark. Now remember, the white mark is our 7.5. That's our timing mark, and this should drop when the points open. Right when I get to the cam right there, almost. Okay, I'm right there, so I'm not quite. So let's go just a tick more. Okay, and we'll back this off again, and we'll make contact, and we'll come up to the case, to the split in the case right here, and here's our mark. And I think that should be it, but it's not. Let's go a little bit more. Is that right? Just a tick. Back it up. And we'll try that one more time. Once again, one more time. Should be right there. Oh, spot on. Spot on the money. Okay, now we're at 7.5. Points are opening. Our mark's lining up with the case. We're good. We're going to clamp this down, and then we're going to try it again. Sometimes your clamp gets bent, and when you clamp it down, it kind of moves the distributor a little bit, so you got to kind of work with it in order to do it. But we'll clamp that down, and then we won't have to go like this when we go to start it. Okay, while I have you here, I wanted to point out a couple of things. These single port engines are prone to fracturing, and they fracture back here behind the flywheel. And the reason why they do that is because of this stud here is only has like that much meat, so it's pulling on the case. I don't think this one's going to be a problem. I had a good look at it, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. But the next engine I build, the one that's in the machine shop, and I need to call the guy, he hasn't started on it yet. I'm going to put a bottom stud, which is a long stud, right here. So how many inserts am I going to need? 16? No, 15. Because I'm going to do all of them in inserts except for this one. And I'm going to do this one like the new cases. They have it bored way back in here. And since they have it way back in here, the stud is attached to the not to the outside of the case, but it's attached more to the main saddle, up into the main saddle. So it doesn't pull just on the edge of the block. It pulls towards the center of the block, and you won't get that breakage. That's why the new AE cases, the dual relief 8mm stud cases, have that stud that goes way back up in there. His Volkswagen fixed that. Well, I'm going to fix this on the other case. Also, there's something else I didn't do, is I should have glued these studs in with some red Loctite. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I've already got that done. We see what happens. There's always things I think of when I'm cranking the engine over. Okay, so I want to show you this. This is the new book. And it says, this is about the gasket between the base, the cylinder base, and the engine. And it says, install a paper sealing ring that fits between the cylinder and the crankcase. So that is in the new book. So there's the new book up to 79, and here's the old book. Old book. This is my book from 66 to 69, and it says put a new gasket between cylinder and crankcase. Okay, so from 66 on, it says in the book that you should use a gasket. I've always used gaskets. I've put this is probably about the 10th engine I've put together, a Volkswagen engine that is, and I've always used a gasket, and I've always used sealant. When I use a gasket, I use sealant on both sides. That being said, I did not find a gasket. Now, it might have disintegrated, probably, but I did not find a gasket on the old cylinders. So, to answer the question of a lot of people, well, could I just glue them on there with some silicone? First thing, don't use silicone on your engine. Just don't. Silicone is acidic. And I'm sure it has bad mojo with magnesium. I wouldn't use silicone. I don't like using silicone on anything. I know. I like the gasket sealant, the gasket shellac kind of stuff, the stuff that doesn't set up. Now, other people swear by silicone. It's a preference. It's just me. It's just me. I know Volkswagen didn't put these together with silicone, so they didn't have any silicone. Now, I did use silicone on my valve covers though, but that's steel, so I'm not worried about that. But being a glass guy, I seen what silicone does to steel. I shouldn't have used silicone on that, but don't use silicone. But I use silicone. What the hell are you saying? Okay, you know, I before, when I put that other engine together, I did use a red RTV, and I shouldn't have. You know, it's a learning process. It's a learning curve, and I'm not using that junk anymore. So I'm just using that stuff. You go into the store and you go, oh, this is only $4, but the tube of silicone's $20. Well, it must be better. It's just not. Okay, I just like using that because the gasket should do its job. The surface should be good, and if you've got to use something to fill in all the crevices that's really thick like silicone, well, I guess whatever. But I'm not going to use it. But on the base gaskets, I would use them. I've always used base gaskets. They come in the set, so I use them. So that's my explanation about that. Next will be our fuel pump. Here's the parts for our fuel pump. we have the fiber. Make sure it's not cracked because it can leak through the crack or broken. The correct fuel pump rod, this is the one that come off this engine. 2 warpy washers and 2 13mm head nuts. They're 8mm but 13 head. 2 gaskets and your fuel pump. Remember that our fuel pump did not leak and it worked. Alright, I put a little grease underneath there. Fuel pump's going to come off anyways because I'm going to rebuild it. Distributor's going to come out anyways because I'm going to rebuild it. Carburetor I'm putting on this is going to be that Brazilian whatever, because I'm going to rebuild the other one. This is just to make this engine run for right now. So the accessories are going to be rebuilt. So, okay. Since the accessories are going to be rebuilt, and I'm going to pull this fuel pump off, okay, I'm only going to seal this one. I'm not going to seal this one, okay? Because when the fuel pump comes off, then I can use that again. It won't leak that much oil in the little bit of time that I'm going to run it, so it's not a big deal. So of course I'm going to paint both sides between the case and the gasket and the base, and we'll put that all together. And I'll show you what we're looking for once we get the base on there. I'll show you how high your fuel pump rod should be. Now, a lot of the problems people have with these engines are fuel delivery problems, and this is one of the deals. Is they'll buy an empty fuel pump rod. It'll be too short, too long. Chinese one, too short, too long. But it's chrome, so it's got to work right, right? Yeah. So, or they'll put one of those wacky Brosol fuel pumps on. I remember going to a salvage yard one time, and there's a 55-gallon drum of these Purebergs, and people had chucked them because they leaked. You know, they just need a new diaphragm for one of those Brazilian things that delivered 5 pounds of or 6 pounds of pressure to your carburetor on that minuscule little needle and seat that'll only take 1.5 pounds or something. Just shooting gas right through it, straight down the carburetor. The car gets terrible gas mileage now. It fouls plugs. It runs like crap. And now your tube, your heater tube's all coked up because of all the, it just cascades like that. So if you're going to use one of those aftermarket fuel pumps, put a pressure regulator on it and dial in the correct pressure for your carburetors. Now, if you've got dual carburetors or some hot rod setup or something like that that require more, you know, it's all for your setting. It's all for your application. But this application is only like 2 pounds. And this pump delivers the 2 pounds. It's the right one. So it's not going to push it past the seat. It's not going to overflow the float bowl. It's not going to run the engine rich. You'll get better gas mileage. Won't follow your plugs. Blah, 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 blah. So let's put this together with the correct parts. All right, I've turned my engine to where this is the low side. And I have a 5/16 wrench, okay, which is slightly smaller than 8mm, okay? I don't have an 8mm wrench. But that's the gap, and you can see that that is about the height of this rod. And that's what you want, is you want 8mm right about there. And then when you turn it to its highest point, here she comes up. Right there, that's the pinnacle. It's going to be 13mm, and that's about what you've got right there too. There's a 13mm wrench. I don't have very good measuring devices, so, you know, what are you going to do? It will be Captain Obvious when you have too short of a push rod in there, okay? You have too short of a push rod, or your push rod will be, the end of it will be wore off, or the lobe on your distributor drive will be wore off, and you won't get 13mm out of that. And if you don't get the 13mm out of that, it won't push that little plunger deal, and you won't get any fuel pressure, or you'll get lackluster fuel pressure, you know. So Could be a couple things. Could be you could get too much fuel pressure. You could be, I know from experience. I know from experience by putting on a crappy carburetor or crappy fuel pump, and going on a trip with it, and ending up having to strap a can of gasoline, duct tape to my roof with a hose going down through it, feeding a vacuum, pull a siphon on the and plug it into the carburetor, just as a feed, so I can get to the next town, so I can fix the damn thing. I know about this, so this is critical right here. You don't want your engine starving, and you don't want it passing so much gas through the carburetor that it doesn't run right and fouls and stuff. This is kind of critical. So everything's critical on this engine, actually. So we're going to bolt this up. Again, we are not going to seal this. We're not going to seal this gasket, because I'm just going to take the fuel pump off and rebuild it again. The bottom gasket we did seal. Next will be our oil cooler. Okay. Did you clean it all out? Yeah. Okay. Have you degreased it? Yeah. Did you fill it up with some solvent and shake it up and make sure nothing was coming out? This one looks like hell, but it works. Is it full of cottonwood? No. Okay, so it should work. I clean that all up now. There's a nut and a gasket and two nuts. A nut and a washer. Two washers and two nuts over there. Can't think what I'm trying to say. Now, in your gasket kit, you get all of these. So what you want to do is just put them all down in there. Okay, so now we have to do Sherlock Holmes, okay? Alright, Sherlock says these are for a dual port with a doghouse. Okay, 2 go on the case and then 2 go on the adapter. So let's set those aside. You don't need those. But you paid for them. Yeah, but you don't need them. But I paid for them. But you don't need them. But I paid for them. Yeah, I know. This kit come with these little jewels. Now these are hard to find. Sometimes you don't get them in a kit. But this kit has them. If you notice, one side is 10 millimeter and the other side is 12 millimeter. So essentially, what you can do is these fit on a single port oil cooler right now, and you can use a single port oil cooler and single port heads for the new case, the new AE case, because the new AE case has got 12 millimeter holes. Okay, so these are pretty handy to have, but they're not what we need. I just dropped what we need. But I paid for them. Yeah, which you don't need them. Okay, these are too big for the holes. Okay, all of them. So I don't know what those are for. Type 3 maybe? I don't know. Never used them. But I paid for them. Yeah, I know. Which leaves us with these. Did you see how I Sherlock Holmes that? Captain Obvious. These fit perfectly in the hole. Yes. And these fit perfectly right there. Now, depending on what kit you get, if you get like a 1200 kit, it's got different ones. This is the original one that come off of it, so you can see the squash factor. And this was once rubber, and it's turned to stone now. So we're going to use these. Okay. Now, I'm not going to put any sealant on that because it could get in your oil passages. Okay. I might put a little oil on them to help them seal, and then I'll get a washer and nuts and we'll bolt that down. Okay, these seals are not for putting a single port oil cooler on a dual relief case. They're more likely type 3. I do have some of those that you can do that with, but they're thinner. They're special order things. So you get all of these seals in your case that you pay for that you can just throw away. What you can do is you can trade people. You know, I've got a bunch of pieces that see, like this. That goes for an earlier engine. So you have all these metal pieces. So anyone who's assembling an earlier engine or a later engine, the kit comes with just about everything. I found all of my metal gaskets. It's going to be the gasket that goes on this, the rings that go here, the exhaust gaskets, and the heat riser. And I coated them with this. Had just enough, so we're going to set that aside and let it dry. Let those dry. Let's see here, how can we do this? We just go like that. There you go. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, now, next thing is going to be our engine tin, cylinder tin. Now, I know you're not going to believe this, but that 3 and 4 means it goes on number 3 and 4. And that 1 and 2 means that it goes on number 1 and 2. So we're going to put it there. Now, notice how marvelously glorious that fits. I didn't have to pound or cuss or yell or scream. It's an original case, original heads, and original tin. Isn't that beautiful? That's just beautiful. You got to make sure these are here too, these little screws, because they're for something. One there, one there. So let's put those on and we'll secure those down with some cheese heads. I put our intake seals in that we've painted with the copper seal, and I put it with the seam down. Next, I put a new set of lips on the bottom here, and if yours are hateful, you might want to take and slice it with a razor like I had to. Mine were sealed up, and you want that open. And then it's going to go it's not going to go like this. It's going to go like this with the engine like this, okay? And then so you get better gas mileage, you know, because there's less resistance. I don't know. That's how I was told. And you have to have I put a new rubber on here also, which goes in this hole right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang this just off to the side. Hang this off to the side like that. And then we're going to take our intake, and of course we've pulled our plugs out of there, paper plugs, but we did not pull the paper plug out of here because we're going to drop a nut down there, and yeah, so we're not going to do that. Not yet. Don't pull that out of there until you're ready to put the carburetor on there. Until you like have the carburetor in one hand and you're going, okay, switch real quick. Now, getting ahead of myself. Then we're going to bolt this down. We're going to bolt this down as well, but we're going to leave it loose so that when we fit our exhaust to it, and the last thing we're going to do is crank down those. That way we can kind of move this a little bit. Okay, I left these loose so it would wiggle a little bit so I could put my muffler on and wiggle that around, and we'll tighten them up. I put my fan shroud on and have been fighting with it for an hour. Okay, and what I have is I have this piece of tin, and it was in the wrong position, and so I had to take it out, and it had been ripped, and then I had to go out and search for another one, and the flashlight worked when I left the garage, and when I got out to the outbuilding, of course it didn't work. That's the kind of crap I've been dealing with. Okay, so anyways, I finally got it on, and I finally got it straightened out, and I'll show you how to set your thermostat. Okay, I have my thermostat here, and it moves without binding, and I will show that in a moment. And what you want to do is you bring your thermostat to, see that, the bottom of that right there? I'm going to have that just a little bit above that because it's going to kind of totter when I do it. There we go, just touching. And then I'm going to tighten that up. And your thermostat is still loose in there. In fact, it needs to come up just a tick. And then you pull this down. Of course, your thermostat deal goes in. But the deal is it needs to travel, as far as it can go up, because it's not how hot you want it, it's how cool you want it, or something like that. Anyways, it's if you understand what I'm saying, it's up all the way, okay, and the flaps are open. So if you bring this down and tighten it up, when the thermostat expands, the flaps will be all the way open. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to do that and put the nuts in our fan shroud, and I'll show you up underneath here in a second. Okay, I loosened the bolt off of my thermostat, and I just wanted you to see how much slack I have. It's not like it's binding in that hole at all. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, when you come down a little bit, it gets close, because that rod's kind of bent at an angle like that. But it does not rub on that. So I think we're golden. And again, we're going to get that to the top there, and then we're going to bring our thermostat down, and then that way when our thermostat opens, we know for a fact, because it's not rubbing on the top there, the thermostat opens all the way as far as it'll go, and we know for a fact that the flaps are open all the way, if that makes sense to you. Had asked me if I had checked the ring gaps, and I didn't. And I'll tell you why I didn't, is because the people at the factory should have done it for me, if that makes sense to you. I also didn't check the roundness of the cylinders, or I didn't put a single measurement on that crank, or the gaps in between where the rods are and stuff like that. Look, the parameters for the rod gaps between the throws of the crank are like 4 to 14 thousandths. That's a 10 thousandths variable. That's a lot, and you can move them, and yeah. in the cylinders, the pistons go up and down, and it's not scoring the cylinders, and you know, check the ring gaps and stuff like that. Well, all this stuff is supposed to be, you know, out of the box. It's supposed to be good, right? You know, I mean, it's a those are Molly pistons. Those are supposed to be good, right? So, you know, if Molly didn't check all that stuff and the parameters weren't correct, they wouldn't sell any products, and it'd be all over on the internet. Oh, don't buy this because the ring gaps are bad, or blah, 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 blah. So all the measurements, those are up to those guys. I'm just putting their parts in this engine, you know, and then torquing them. That's like line boring. In the thrust cut, I don't know. I don't know if he did it right or not. I'm leaving that up to the professional. I'm not a professional when it comes to doing that kind of stuff. I'm just a backyard mechanic, and we're not building a space shuttle here. We're just, you know, we're putting together an engine for an old clapped out Volkswagen. So yeah, that's what I think about that. You know, it's like all those measurements are for those guys that are professionally putting those parts together in factories or you know, race engines or something like that. You know, I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm gonna put my lower tin on. I have the original pieces, so they ought to fit pretty good. Heat boxes, exhaust. There's some things I'm going to leave off of this. I'm going to leave this over the top, the covers for this, the clutch, something else. It's a piece of tin. I can't remember what it is. I don't really need it to hear it run. So I'm going to put all that stuff together. If I run into anything extraordinary or worth mentioning, I'll let you know. Most of it's just pretty straightforward. Again, we're going to use our gaskets that we had coated with that copper stuff. So, okay, I'm going to get after it. I bagged everything up for each thing, and they're gone. I swear to you, I'm going to clean this mess up and organize it when I get this engine built. Hand to God, I'm going to do that. Had to go to the had to get some nuts and bolts. I have some of these, but I want to use new ones for the exhaust manifold studs and for these. So it didn't have any new ones, you know. I can't find. Yeah, never mind. Okay, back at it. So it's just been a fist fight putting this exhaust on. I've been working on it for an hour, but I finally got it on. And what I had to do, and these are things you have to do, because you're not going to find, you might find an original German muffler, you might find original German heat boxes, you might find them without boogered up ends there. You know, I fixed the end there, and that's a Danish muffler, and you just got to expect these kind of things. Just yeah. So anyways, what I did is I loosened up my bolts back here, so I was able to kind of tip things around, and it loosened my bolts up underneath, holding the heat exchanger as well. So it's amazing. But I ended up finally getting it. So if you keep everything loose, you can kind of schlock everything together. And then these are real important too. So you don't want to strip these. So you can start one by putting your, and this is going to be really tight too. So you can get your screwdriver up underneath there, give it a little pry, get your gasket in there, and then you can kind of scoot things around and pry. And if you stick screwdriver down in there and give it a pull, you can get one and then tighten them up. But those are real important to get tightened first, because those are really easy to strip. Okay, more fight. Got myself a little fuel source on the front, and so I'm using the whole fuel line. Down there on the floor I have a meter, and it's pegged, and so if it starts, it should go off. That means it has oil pressure. Got it timed. Let's check the ignition one more time. Number 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I don't have a. Can't find it. Don't know where it went. Little gas, and I put some 2-stroke in it just a little bit. And backfeed this carburetor. Give it a little shot down there. There she is. Yeah. Cross your fingers. There you go. She'll smoke a bit till it gets broke in. I think it's drawing that gas from that gas tank. I think my fuel pump's working all right. There you go. All right, got a lot more work to do on it. It was just, I mean, just a fist fight trying to find all the parts for this and putting it all together. I mean, just kicking and screaming all the way. I can't make this stuff up, you know. Lost the key to my flywheel. I had it in my hand, I had it in my fingers, and then I looked and it just disappeared, like it jumped out of my fingers. So I went and got another one, and put it all together and stuff. And while I was rolling this engine over, I noticed something was going bump, 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 and the wheel of this tire here it was embedded in the wheel of the tire. I can't make this stuff up. I can't make this stuff up. Pencil broke off into the in the fuel line. I still couldn't find the little piece going to the and here's the deal. I put everything in a bag, and I can't make this up, man. I can't. It's crazy. So, you know, we got her in there. It's running. That's good. Now I can go through this tornado here and clean it up. And I'm going to find all the stuff. The engine bolts, I had to fudge the engine bolts on this because I had them in a bag. They're gone. Just every little thing. It was just a fist fight. But God, it runs, so I'm happy. And if you notice on the bottom, there isn't spooge all coming out of the bottom, so we're good. I think the timing's a little short. I think the dwell is short. We need to fix all that stuff. You know, new points, get the distributor rebuilt, the original carburetor, you know, all plumbing and hoses on it and stuff. I've started to make a list of the things that I'm missing. And the things that are broken, the little things, cork underneath the oil cap, and the little heat riser, or the preheat tubes, the little risers that come out of there that the pipes fit on. So one thing at a time, but I got to clean this mess up because by God, I just can't find anything. Well, thanks for coming on this ride with me, and it's a success. It didn't explode when I started it. Ha! So, and that's how you rebuild an engine. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.